Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome back to, I think this may be the 11th.
I think so.
It's the 11th evening gathering of our Isopanishad discussion. There's no PowerPoint today, and I'll explain to you right after I've offered my thanks to Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Desatari. Hare Krishna. Oh, welcome back. The reason why there's no PowerPoint this evening is that the discussion we began yesterday has stayed with me ever since then, and it strikes me as an issue, a discussion, a topic that's so important that I thought it was worth another session to review this, just to refresh our memories about the background here. The speaker of the Isopanishad has reached a point in this exposition of his or her understanding of divinity where the personhood of divinity has now become very prominent in the mantras. The many aspects of this person's vision of God come out in these middle verses, and even more so toward the end. I wanted to start with some of the questions that were left over from yesterday. Ken, is Ken here? Ken asked a question. Hi. Ken asks, can you speak of the difference between a deity at home
Hi.
there, and a beginner worshiping, a deity at a temple and a beginner worshiping at home? Let's, instead of comparing a deity worshipped in a temple and a deity worshipped at home, because there's mature and less mature worship in temples as well as in people's homes, let's speak more in terms of levels of realization of who the deity is. Usually when we speak of a beginner, we mean someone who's access to the deeper personal relationships that are possible with the archa-vigraha, the form of God installed for worship, is not particularly pronounced. Their execution of the principles of deity worship is usually ritualistic, mechanical. This is how I'm supposed to do it. This is what I've learned. Someone who has a more mature understanding of who the deity is begins to experience certain emotions within the practice of archa-vigraha or archa-paddhati. It's not meant to be a formality. The worship of the deity, while it has strict principles around it, is about as close as we can come to being in the presence of God without yet having reached full enlightenment. That's how powerful the experience of seeing the deity and offering service to the deity can be. There's a related question. If Krishna's energy pervades everything, what makes a particular object worshipable? Okay, very, very good point. If we're talking about God's presence through his energies in all creation, why should we limit our worship to a deity on an altar in a temple? It's a very, very good point. And there are stories of the truly advanced, mature mystics who derive that same sense of ecstasy from everyday objects. The worship of the deity is a facility for reminding us that God has personality. We have personality. How can we possess something that God does not possess? Everything is there in God in its fullness. And that fullness of personality is reflected in the deity. The deity is a kindness. The deity is an act of love from the Supreme Being to allow us to approach him even in our unenlightened condition. So it's interesting as well that this discussion of personhood and the deity form in temples is arising just at these middle mantras of the Isopanishad. It's almost as if the speaker of the Isopanishad anticipated that we would need to confront this issue head on early, not just at the end where we become almost irrelevant to the speaker of Isopanishad. It's such a personal discussion between a devotee and divinity that we almost fade away at that point. But it is, I think, the line that separates those who are serious about their bhakti yoga from those who harbor doubts. When I'm supposed to accept that this wooden statue or this marble statue or whatever it's made of is actually worshipable, I'm supposed to accept that. I'm not willing to do that. That I cannot do, and I won't do that. Idol worship is a deal breaker. This is, we sometimes find ourselves confronting this mentality that it's just not okay. That right there, you had me with the chanting, you had me with prasadam, you had me with everything else. But that right there, that's a deal breaker. I find that to be childish. I find it harmful. It's the lowest impulses that we can have. Just put a statue up on the altar, and now that becomes our substitute for God. It's the opposite of everything that I hold dear and sacred. You want me to revere Krishna in nature? No problem. I'm there. I got that. You want me to offer pranams to Krishna in your heart and in your heart and in your heart and my heart? No problem. I'm good with that. I have no problem accepting that there's something inherently spiritual in you and in the natural world, but I cannot accept to bow down to this idol. There's something that really responds very, very emotionally, very strongly to this idea. And I get that. I mean, even personally, I get that. I've been there. I know how that feels. And over the years, it's been a real revelation for me reading the mystic literature, the lives of the Jewish mystics and the Christian mystics and the Hindu and the Sufi mystics. All of the reports pretty much offer the same general idea that it wasn't that somebody all of a sudden sees, rainbows appearing, in the dark skies, or that angels started dancing on, the pillows of their bed or something. There was more, I looked at a tree and I finally saw the miracle in nature, and it moved me to tears. Every account describes not going away from the world we know to some magical realm, but going deeper inside the world we know to discover its hidden dimensions. And that's what these accounts do. They remind us that spirit does not depend on matter. God does not depend on this deity for his divinity. Rather, matter derives its value from its foundation in spirit. That all energies originate with the Supreme. All energies come from an energetic source. And that energetic source has the capability of transforming material energy into spiritual energy. What do we do when we offer food with prayer? We're sanctifying that food. We're making it sacred through prayer, transforming material energy into spiritual energy. What are we doing when we chant mantras and prayers? We're taking a material tongue, material lips, material vocal cord, and we're sanctifying them with prayers and mantras. We're transforming something material into something spiritual through that act of devotion. And it's true even on the bigger scales. We explore the farthest regions of the universe, and we come up against the limitations of our material tools of perception. We go down inside the dimensions of subatomic particles, and we come up against those same limitations. Materially, we cannot understand the deeper truths of creation because we are working with material tools. The tools cannot reveal the truths to us. What can reveal those truths to us is when we begin to exercise the spiritual tools of observation, the spiritual tools of analysis through prayer, contemplation, chanting of sacred mantras, meditation, yoga, and so on. That's why we chant. That's why we meditate. That's why we do our yoga. Because we are perfecting those spiritual tools of analysis. You know, why does yoga practice recommend a cruelty-free diet? What has what food you eat got anything to do with the transcendent eternal soul? How does that fit together? It's because the guidelines of behavior that come with spiritual life, that come with yoga practice, are not merely principles of morality. They're the prerequisites of knowledge. We cannot access these higher understandings of things. We cannot see Krishna in the deity if our behavior is such that it is creating an impenetrable wall between us and the deity. You will see the deity, and the deity will speak to you when we have prepared ourselves sufficiently through humility, through the exercise of a holy life, through years of chanting and prayer and sincere expression of desire to have that higher relationship. So we need to be a little cautious about our own prejudices. You know, it's always struck me that all of history is autobiographical. You speak to someone who's been through an event, they're interpreting that through their understanding of it, their encounter with it. Someone else who might not have been there sees it in a vastly different way. Even people who experience the same thing describe it in different ways. So if indeed we're viewing everything through the lens, the clouded lens of the experiences of this life, might it be possible that we are also judging that Archamurti on the altar through the lens of our material experience, which is generally tragic? People don't generally have a very good experience with religion. So are we really responding to the presence of Krishna in that deity form, or are we coming up against the limitations of our own intellectual and emotional perceptions? A friend of mine who has done a lot of teaching in Russia, I called him. I said, look, I'm trying to explain something that's very complex and difficult and very personal as well. I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can show you that. I'll turn this on. This is my little altar here at home. There's pictures of Chaitanya, and there's my little deities of Krishna playing the flute. I hope I'm holding this right so you can see it. Jagannath, the pictures of Prabhupada, and it's decorated with elephants. There's a little baby elephant over there. Hanuman in the back, I don't know if you can see him. And I have jars of sacred dust from Vrindavan and water from the Yamuna River here. So That's my that's my little altar that I use in the morning to chant my japa. And so I asked him, I said, how do you do it? How do you explain to people about deities? It's such a touchy subject. And he gave me a really interesting answer. I'd like to share it with you. He says it's usually a 3-day program, not a half-hour program. It's 3 days. And the first day, he brings people into the temple room. And he puts himself in front of the deities, like I'm in front of my altar. And he says, okay, just for today, just be here and acknowledge that everything is energy, that around us we recognize the energy of nature, and that their love is an energy, hate is an energy. You don't need to figure it out intellectually. Somebody can just walk into the room and you feel their vibration, you feel their energy, and you know like something's going on here. So just be with me here, he tells visitors, in this room together with God on the altar as an energy. Just feel that energy. And he invites them to just be present, either to chant or offer prayers or whatever. The second day, he invites them to come back. And he says, now feel your own energy. Not only the energy coming from the altar, but feel your own energy. And what happens when we put these two together? Without judging it. Don't judging it. Don't try to intellectualize it. Set aside your hesitations. Just be present before this energy that we call Krishna. So it's not him and me, but it's us. It's us together. And he described other kinds of exercises like that he uses with people. And then I said, well, what do you tell them when they ask, how does it happen? You know, how does God appear in something that's fashioned from material stone or wood? He says, well, I explained very simply that the guru, the lover of God, asks God, would you please accept to come down and inhabit this form so that people can come closer to you? I thought that was a lovely explanation of how to introduce people to the notion of deity worship, not having to convince them with arguments, but just be present and feel that energy. But this is, after all, what the speaker of the Isopanishad is all about. This is what's happening, is this person is saying, my whole life I've tried to know you, I've tried to understand you, and now this is in the 16th and 17th mantras. Please take away this amorphous energy and show me your face of bliss. I know your energy. The speaker of Isopanishad is saying, now please take away the brightness, the blinding effulgence of that energy so that I may see you face to face. This is what I've wanted all my life. And now I'm dying. Please give me this gift.
Arvol, I had a question. When, you can still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. When does one know that they're like ready for like home deity worship? I know for me, like I have my altar with pictures and, but no deities yet.
I'm kind of with you. I've hesitated. My son and his family, they have beautiful Radha Krishna deities on a beautiful marble altar at their home in Alachua, Florida. Most of my devotee friends also have deities in their homes. I've never felt qualified. Myself personally, I have a very small deity back here. The main deity on my altar is Jagannath, because he's very kind to beginners like me. So I guess you just need to search your heart. I don't know if there's a simple pat answer to that question. That's a very intimate question. When am I ready to invite God to live in my home? Well, you're going to have to figure that one out for yourself. I think certainly when your behavior merits it. If you're still contending with habits that are considered impediments to spiritual life, you might want to hold back because you want to be able to invite Krishna to live in a place where it's the activities are appropriate, the mood is appropriate. I would say just be considerate of Krishna. Having a deity in your home is inviting God to be present with you, and you want to be sure that if you're going to do that, that you have a place that's clean and loving and warm and inviting, where Krishna will want to live. Maybe that's the closest I can answer your question.
Thank you. No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Where at this point in time, 2020, can one locate a bona fide spiritual master? There's a mystical answer to that question, which is continue to be as sincere as you possibly can, chant your mantras from your heart, continue to deepen your understanding, and Krishna will send you a guru. You're not going to have to go to Amazon.com or anything. Krishna will send you the guru. Postage paid. You just be sincere and magical things can happen. So don't be nervous about it. That will be taken care of. Not to worry. Hi there.
Hi. So I have a question. If God is perfect and complete, or I think it says the Godhead is perfect and complete.
Yeah, that's the invocation to Isopanishad.
And then in the handout, I think the first day it said, it's preferable to worship the God as a personality rather than, Om, God unmanifested.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? And what's the difference? I thought Om was the perfect mantra.
Well, it is a perfect mantra. And in Bhagavad Gita, I think it's in the 9th chapter, Krishna says, I am the Om mantra. So there is no difference from the bhakti point of view. If you're chanting Om or you're chanting Hare Krishna, you're addressing that same supreme being. The difference would be that the names of Krishna and the personal form of Krishna is a more intimate and more satisfying form of worship. There's another verse in Gita where Arjuna asks the same question at the beginning of the 12th chapter of the Gita. And Krishna tells him, well, you're welcome to worship the impersonal energy if you want to, but it's really hard. It's hard to focus on something that has no form or shape or personality or it is beyond description. And while that Brahman effulgent energy is also God, the Bhakti school describes that it is the shining illumination emanating from the body of the personal Supreme Being. So in the personal Supreme Being, you have both. You have that energetic background to all creation, and you also have the intimacy of the exchange of love that comes with personhood. So they're not different, but the personal form of worship, bhakti, is a much more accessible and satisfying form of meditation. I mean, people are welcome to do it. There's no harm if someone wishes to worship the impersonal Brahman, but it's hard to stick to that. So there's nothing to focus on. There's nothing to engage the senses. There's no image for the mind. And there's no sense of reciprocation. Reciprocation comes between people. So that's the contribution of bhakti to yoga practice. I know that it's problematic. I understand that. Knowing the deity in the temple, I mean, how do you avoid looking at a deity and not thinking this is an idol. Well, I remember Prabhupada once saying that if all that you see is an idol, then Krishna on the altar will remain material to you forever. At least hypothetically, we should enter into a communing with the Murti by accepting that everything is God's energy. Why should this beautiful form be excluded from that definition? God is not limited to the deity in the temple or on my altar here at home, but he should certainly also not be excluded. And if by seeing the deity, I am reminded that Krishna is this most munificent, funny, compassionate, wise, lovable being, what's the harm there?
So I have a question. My question is, why do we say Krishna and Ram in the Mahamantra? Like is Lord Rama also?
Yeah, the Maha Mantra, or the Great Mantra, which is found in many, many of the Sanskrit texts, including some of the oldest texts, is comprised of 3 Sanskrit words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Hare is the vocative of Hara, and the word Hara is another name of Radha, or devotion personified. So we call first to Radha, the feminine divinity, and say, oh my dear Radha, Hare, I'm here with a desire to know God, to serve Krishna. Kindly help me to know him. Help me to know Krishna. Hare Krishna. And then Rama, the Sanskrit word Rama, comes from a verse, Ramante yogino anante satyananda chiratmani, that the yogis know the highest ecstasy, Ramante, through their yoga practice and coming to awaken that ecstatic love of God that is the soul's original birthright. So this prayer addresses both Krishna by his personal name, meaning Krishna, one who is so beautiful that none other is more beautiful than he, and Rama, knowing whom the aspiring devotee experiences the greatest ecstasy. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The beautiful prayer.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all, as always, for coming together in the evenings. We'll pick up tomorrow with the next mantra of Isopanishad, same time, same place. Just a reminder, April 18th, we'll be skipping a class there because there's a panel discussion that was previously scheduled. But I do look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Thank you all very much. Remember, these sessions are recorded and they're uploaded to our Facebook page. Facebook page, I guess sometimes it is. Gita Wisdom Teachings, or on YouTube, Gita Wisdom Joshua Green.